you very much. Okay. I have one of my students here, so I'm going to talk to her. And it's important to me to really share what I think is the formula for success. The young men that spoke before me were excellent. And what I think that they really hit on is there is a formula, and it's not really a challenging formula. The formula is passion, purpose, perseverance. How do you define yourself? People always say, how did you decide to do this? How did you get to where you're going? Why did you want to do these things? It is strictly from a point of passion, purpose, and perseverance, right? When you're a little girl, you have all these dreams, and you dream that I want to do this, and I want to do that. And then somewhere along the way with life, like with everyone's life, someone tells you you can't do it, right? And you get deterred from your goal. The point that you have to keep in focus is that no one determines your ceiling. You determine your ceiling. Despite your circumstances, you determine your ceiling. Do not place yourself in a circumstance where someone tells you you can't do something. Never place yourself in a position where someone says you're not smart enough to do that, or you're not capable enough to do that. Those are people who bring negative energy to your aura, and they're not free to determine what you're capable of doing. I was very blessed. I have a very strong, supportive family. Although my mother was a single mother, I watched her work incredibly hard. Two of my aunts are former superintendents. My mother was a vice president of a hospital. They were all single women. And the thing that I got when I went off to school, even though the other women came from similar circumstances, was that my mom had never told me no. I had no idea what that was going to do for my confidence along the way, growing, developing. She never told me no. I would like to try this. Okay. I would like to try this. Okay. Her only question to me ever was, do you have a plan? And when I had a plan, she was totally supportive. So that's my first thing. When I picked a major, why did I pick the major? I tease my students all the time about my old school references. There was a reporter that I was in love with, because even then I was a news geek, and I loved Cokie Roberts. And I noticed that she was the only female on television with the big boys delivering the news. And I loved her, and I wanted to be her. So she set my standard for what I wanted to be in a woman. I watched her every Sunday. I watched her interview people, very tough, challenging interviews with grace and respect. And so that was my plan. That was my path. So when I went to Spelman College, let me digress a little bit. It wasn't by choice. I was headed to Northwestern, and my mother decided that I needed to go to a historical black college, which is what Spelman College is, because she wanted me to be invested with a lot of positive energy from other progressive African Americans and to be rooted in who I was, so that when I went into the world, I would really understand how to share that purpose. And back then I wasn't happy about it, but as soon as I spent one semester there, I was grateful for the choice. So I majored in political science because I was a news junkie back then, even then. And I majored in communications because I love to argue all the time about anything ad nauseum. And so that was my passion, and it was the reason why I picked that. And when I got to school, I realized for the first time, wow, my mom was right, I have to have a plan. I'm not so special after all. Why do I say that? Well, at my particular college, it's filled with bright, successful black women. We were all the top of our class. We were all in every organization. And so for the first time, I had real competition and a knock on my confidence. But again, I had passion, I had purpose, and I had perseverance. So for me, it didn't matter that for once I wasn't getting all A's. Although I got a lot, I was a perfectionist, I wanted to get them all, you know. I realized that my plan had to be fluid. And so that's my next thing, obstacles, right? When you have obstacles, you have a choice. You can sit there and weep about your obstacles and keep knocking yourself against the hill, right? Or, as my grandfather used to say, you can dig under the mountain, you can go around the mountain, you can climb over the mountain, you can talk your way through the mountain, right? There's a choice that you make, a choice everyone makes when they have an obstacle. I tell my students all the time when they have life issues, what do I say? Give me your hour. Because you have to give yourself that time first. before you give it to anyone else to develop and to grow. And you can't develop and to grow unless you have your purpose and your passion put together so that you can persevere through it, right? And so after my school at Spelman College, I decided, even though my mom and none of my friends had heard of the school, that I would attend Johns Hopkins, the School of Advanced of International Studies, because again, I'm a nerd, happy nerd. And I get over there and I picked an area that was very challenging for me. It was Japanese studies. And I couldn't finish it. It was very hard. I had to switch majors. When I switched majors, I called my mom and I said, she's like, so what's your plan? Because I'm not paying for school forever, right? You have to have a plan. I was like, okay, I'm going to Bologna, Italy. And I'm going to switch majors into international relations. And I'm going to study and I'm going to do something with this. And I came back and I applied to be a clerk with Senator Carol Moseley Brown, which is the first African-American senator from the state of Illinois. And I learned a lot. And during that time period, I taught, actually. I taught at Eastern Senior High School in Washington, D.C., and I learned how to relate, really, to so many different ways of life. I figured it out. I figured it out of necessity, because number one, even though I said what my mom said was her plan was how are you going to pay for this plan too, right? So I got cut off, and that was a big deal for me, because I was her little prima donna, and I got cut off in a big way. So now all of a sudden I'm looking for a job, and now all of a sudden I'm working several jobs, and now all of a sudden I'm balancing, and I'm very grateful for the tough lesson that she taught me, because she taught me that no matter what you have, life can change, and you have to adapt to that change and be fluid to that change. So I married my college sweetheart. We moved to Chicago. He could not handle the challenging winter months, and we come here. We come here, and although it seems very simple to a lot of people, it was a very hard adjustment for me coming from such northern cities where life is just different. And when I came down here within a month, I was bored. Very bored. So I tell my husband after having a month-old baby, my daughter was literally 4 weeks old, I'm going to law school. He's like, you're doing what? Well, we're not moving. How do you plan to achieve this? I went straight to Stetson Law with my child in tow and said, what do I have to do to get in here? And they said, well, you have to take the LSAT. Well, I don't have any time. I have a newborn. How am I going to do this? I stay up all night long studying for the LSAT and balancing my child. And when it came time to apply, at that time they didn't have a part-time program. They said, how are you going to balance that? And I just basically said, I have high expectations. And I have a purpose, and I follow extreme perseverance. So if you give me the opportunity, you don't have to worry about me getting through. I finished in 2.5 years. And after that, I picked the one area of law that most women don't like to pick, trial law, right? In court all day long, 80-hour weeks, working in the community, giving back, because I absolutely believe that you can't have perspective unless you share and give back. And then a life change happened, so now I have obstacles. I have to adapt to change, and I have a second daughter, and this daughter is born with autism. I don't know if you all know about autism, but it's a very challenging social learning deficiency. And it's not a disease, it's a disorder. It stays with you for life. And so I had to adapt again, and this time was a huge adaptation because I had to decide priorities. And that's what I will tell you lastly. What are your priorities? If your passion and purpose don't match with your priorities, then you're not going to be happy. I can tell you now that it does not matter ultimately how much money you have. There are a lot of people with a ton of money who have no unfettered joy because they have no purpose, because they have no passion. They're simply not happy, right? And my priority was my child. And it was very challenging for me to say, I'm going to switch careers. I'm going to balance this, and I'm going to find a new passion through her. And my new passion brought me here. My new passion was teaching to different learning styles and making an impact, because I now live with that every day. So you have to be fluid with your passion, with your purpose, with your expectations. The things that happen to you don't always happen permanently, and sometimes they do. But the point is, if you're going to be successful, that is internal. That is not external. How far you go in life is purely a matter of what you believe, what your priorities are, and how far you're willing to work for those. When someone says no to you, that's an opportunity for you to rise. When you fail, that is an opportunity for you to rise. You don't learn how to take care of yourself unless someone stops taking care of you. It's important for you to have your inner strength glow. So when life happens to you, you know how to succeed in spite of it all, right? So I've been staring at you a lot because you're my student. And I see a lot of myself in you as a young woman. What I'd like to share with you finally is that what God has for you, no one can take that away. Thank you.